Okay, so at first glance, this just looks like a massive, kind of a daunting list of names from the Book of Chronicles. But what if I told you it's not really a list at all? What if it's actually a hidden map of the ancient world? Well, today we're going to decode it.
Look, I get it. You see a long list of ancient names and all the begats, and you're thinking, why should I care? It seems totally dry. But trust me, this isn't just a list. It's the key that unlocks how an entire civilization saw the world, how they saw themselves, their neighbors, and their place in it all.
So here's how we're going to break this all down. We've got 6 stops on our journey. We'll start with the very first ancestor of humanity, trace the branches that repopulated the whole Earth, and then we're going to zoom way in on the founding of some very specific rival nations. Let's get into it. Okay, so to understand this map, we have to start right at the beginning of, well, everything. The first leg of our journey traces the single, direct line from the first man, Adam, all the way down to this pivotal figure named Noah. So you have this initial list, Adam, then Seth, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, and finally you get to Noah. What this does is it establishes the foundational pre-flood lineage. In this worldview, it connects all of humanity, doesn't matter where you are on the map, back to a single origin point. Think of it like the main trunk of the entire human family tree, right before it splits off into its major branches.
Because after Noah, the story just fractures. That single line of humanity, it splits into 3 main branches. And what the ancient authors did, which is so clever, is they used these 3 branches to literally map out their entire known world. And these 3 branches, they all start with Noah's sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. According to this record, these 3 are the ancestors of every single nation that comes after, and each son's family line corresponds to a totally different region of the world.
So first up, you've got the descendants of Japheth. When we see names like Gomer, Javan, and Tubal, historians pretty much associate them with the peoples way to the north and the west of the ancient Near East. Think modern-day Turkey, the Greek islands. Geographically, this is kind of the outer rim of our ancient map. Now let's zoom in on the other 2 sons, Ham and Shem, because their descendants are absolutely central to the geography and the politics of the ancient Near East, which is the region this whole story is really laser-focused on. The sons of Ham, well, they're linked to the lands south and west of Israel. We're talking Africa, and most importantly, Egypt and Canaan. From this line, you get some of Israel's most famous neighbors and, frankly, their biggest enemies, including the Philistines and the super-powerful Hittite Empire. And then, right here, the text does something really unusual. In this huge sea of names, it just pauses to give us this one specific detail about a guy named Nimrod, a descendant of Ham. It calls him a mighty warrior on earth. This is a huge clue. That kind of rare character detail signals that Nimrod was a major political and military power in his day. And that brings us to the third and final branch, the sons of Shem, or the Semites. This is the line that gives us peoples like the Elamites and the Assyrians. And from this point forward, our map is going to zoom in and follow this one specific branch of the family tree all the way down. As we're following this Semitic line, we hit another one of these fascinating little clues. A man named Peleg is born, and the text straight up tells us why he got that name, because in his time, the earth was divided. Now, whether that's a political division or something even bigger, we don't know for sure, but it's a major historical event just embedded right there in a single name. So cool. So you can just feel the camera zooming in, right? From all the nations of the world, our focus follows this one single direct path, from Shem down 9 generations to a man named Abram, who of course we all know today as Abraham. The map is narrowing fast. And right here is where the whole pattern shifts. After narrowing so intensely on this one guy, the story immediately starts to branch out all over again. Abraham becomes the new starting point for a whole new set of nations. And this table just lays it out so clearly. Through Hagar, he has his first son, Ishmael. Through Keturah, he fathers the ancestors of people like the Midianites. And then, finally, through his wife Sarah, he has Isaac. So you have 3 distinct family lines, 3 totally separate destinies, all starting from one man. And make no mistake, these other branches are not just footnotes. The text deliberately lists Ishmael's 12 sons, guys like Nebaioth and Kendar, and it notes that they all became tribal rulers.
This is a signal that another really significant group of nations is being formed right alongside the story's main focus. But from Abraham's many descendants, the focus sharpens one more time, landing on just one son, Isaac. And Isaac's own two sons, Esau and Israel, are put on this collision course, destined to start one of the most famous sibling rivalries in history by founding two neighboring nations. And the text sets up this really powerful parallel here. You've got Esau, the firstborn son, who becomes the father of the Edomites. And then you have Jacob, later renamed Israel, the secondborn, who fathers the Israelites. The story presents them as two sides of the same coin, both destined to found nations and both destined to produce kings. But, and this is so important, notice the order here. Before we ever hear about Israel's family line, the text first gives us all the details on Esau's descendants. It lists his sons, Eliphaz and Ruel, and even his grandsons, like Teman and the infamous Amalek. These are the clans that are going to form the nation of Edom. And this brings us to an absolutely crucial point. The narrative makes a very pointed political statement. It gives us a full list of all the kings who reigned in Edom, and then it explicitly states that this was before any Israelite king reigned. Now, that is not just a historical footnote. That is a statement about power, history, and legitimacy. And this isn't just some empty claim. The text provides the receipts. It lists a whole succession of kings, one after another, from the very first one, Bela son of Beor, all the way down to a later king named Hadad. This isn't just a random list, it's a visual record of a stable, powerful monarchy that had a long and established political history. And just to complete the picture of this rival nation, the source also lists its powerful tribal chiefs, names like Timnah and Kenaz. So this shows a complex society with different kinds of leaders, painting a really clear picture of a well-established and frankly formidable neighbor. Which brings us to our final question. This entire section, which is supposed to introduce the story of Israel, actually begins by meticulously detailing all the nations that are not Israel. It maps out their cousins, their neighbors, and their rivals first. So I'll leave you with this. If a genealogy is a map of who you are, what does it mean when your story begins by first defining very clearly who you are not?